find 74% say they are better off today than they were in the past.
Nearly 6 in 10 say there is too much freedom in America.
In 1% land, 2/3 believe that teachers and their union should decide what children are taught rather than leaving that to the parents.
70% trust the government to do the right thing.
And quite possibly the most stunning, striking, and nauseating, 84% give Joe Biden a pat on the back for a job well done.
Hardworking Americans.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. I have a question for you, Warriors. Tell me, what do you think is the real reason why the elites are so afraid of Donald Trump? We're going to look at a video and really break it all down. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
Good evening. I'm Daga McDowell.
And I'm Sean Duffy. Welcome to The Bottom Line. Now, America is divided, and those in power want you to believe it's a battle of rich versus poor, urban versus rural, man versus woman. But in 2024, it's a political war between the elite and everybody else.
If you look at the country through the eyes of the 1%er, you will find 74% say they are better off today than they were in the past.
Nearly 6 in 10 say there is too much freedom in America.
In 1% land, 2/3 believe that teachers and their union should decide what children are taught rather than leaving that to the parents.
70% trust the government to do the right thing.
And quite possibly the most stunning, striking, and nauseating, 84% give Joe Biden a pat on the back for a job well done.
Hardworking Americans could not disagree more. Now more than ever, it's us versus them with our nation's first primary just days away.
The highfalutin snots and snobs have Joe Biden, and those hustling to provide for their families have Donald Trump. But that doesn't explain why the elitists, the elites in Davos, who are allegedly elated by Joe Biden's performance, cannot keep Trump's name out of their mouths.
People should recognize that he's a serious political force and should not discount the fact that he could well be elected again.
We are talking too much about Donald Trump in Europe, and we should prepare ourselves for a possible second term.
The fundamental difference between Trump in 2016 and Trump in 2024 is that the environment is so much more dangerous. There are...
You all, you hear this, right? Okay, the percentages of the elites liking what Joe Biden is doing is astounding. They're richer, they're better off. They don't think that parents should be deciding for their children, and they trust the government to do the right thing. Yeah, I don't think, in my opinion, it's not a battle between the elite and everyone else. In a way, it is, but I really believe it is a battle between good and evil. That is my personal experience. I totally believe that. I see it everywhere because the promotion of things that are non-biblical, that are just outright, flat out debaucherously immoral, are promoted in our media. And, you know, I got to bring this up. You know, for decades, we've been hearing that the media misrepresents certain minority groups. Well, the media is controlled by the Democrat Party. And yet, Black people were complaining the most that we're misrepresented. But yet we believe the media, that same media who we said was lying about the representation, the proper representation of Black people. We believe the media when it talks about Donald Trump and other things. So why do we not believe the media when it comes to one thing, but then believe that same lying media when it comes to something else? Ask yourselves that question. Really take a deep, hard look, because if someone is a liar, are they all of a sudden going to start telling the truth about something else, or are they going to lie about that too? The chances are they're going to lie about that as well. And the elites are shaking in their boots. Yes, they are. The Democratic Party is shaking in their boots.
Are major wars going on. The ability of Trump to cause so much more damage through his volatility is so much higher than it was before.
In Davos, Donald Trump is already the president. That's a good thing because Davos, the Davos consensus is always wrong. I believe if the institutions hold when he loses this election, he'll also be the Republican candidate in 2028 and maybe even in 2032 as well. Because, what's the way out for him? He either winds up in prison or he winds up in power.
I think the best defense, if that's the way we want to look at it, is attack.
Let's bring in the author of The Dying Citizen, How Progressive Elites, Tribalism, and Globalization Are Destroying the Idea of America. Hoover Institution Senior Fellow, Victor Davis Hanson. Victor, listening to these snots and snobs sitting over in Switzerland, what do you make of their yakking about Trump?
I think they're so incoherent when you hear things about there's all these wars going on and Trump could make it worse. They're completely clueless. When Trump was there, it's the first time in 4 administrations that Putin didn't go in across anybody's borders. We had no problem with Chinese balloons coming across the United States. Hamas didn't dare go into Israel. Hezbollah was not rocketing. Iran was facing really tough sanctions. So I guess to sum up their attitude is they would rather be wrong and have a terrible situation or landscape around the world, but not have Donald Trump president, rather than to have calmness with Trump president. The other subtext is these elites, both abroad and here at home, Gagan, I think the one common denominator is they have enough money and influence that they're never subject to the consequences of their own ideology. So they feel we're like lab rats, the rest of the country, the rest of the world, and they can experiment with climate change, DEI, ESG, all of these nostrums that don't work, but don't affect them when they go wrong.
It's a great point, Victor. And what I look at this, these people don't care about the American economy. They don't care about the American worker. They don't care about American freedom. They do care about a one world government, and they do get offended when Donald Trump talks about putting America first, because if America's first, then they aren't first.
Yeah, they are. We subsidize the entire defense of Europe, and the more that we subsidize them, and the more that Donald Trump finally made them pay $100 billion more for their own defense, they got angry at him. And they would have been lost if they hadn't had that extra increase in munitions when Putin invaded. So it's so incoherent. They hate him so much that they're willing to destroy their own political landscape or their own futures just so they can say Trump is not going to be president or he's awful. And we see the same thing here in the United States. They prefer Biden, given all the damage he'd done, rather than to have things that worked under Trump.
See, that's the thing that is really ridiculous. The WEF, the World Economic Forum, they're the ones coming up with a lot of this foolishness. We have climate change, we have globalism, we have all these things that Victor Hanson, right here, the older gentleman, is referring to. And these things benefit the 1%ers. That's why you saw those percentages at the beginning of the video that you saw, because they benefit them. Who in their right mind would want Joe Biden to continue as president, or any Democrat politician to be over anything? They destroy everything. Their cities that they're over. If they're a DA, they mess that up too. They mess everything up. If they're a governor, they mess that up. But we continue to vote Democrat because they control the media, and we believe what the media is telling us. We need to stop with the propaganda or mainstream media falling into the lies that they tell. The World Economic Forum, one of the ladies in the clip a few moments ago, she said the only thing we have left to do is attack. She literally said attack. Donald Trump is being attacked. Our freedoms are being attacked. That is a fact. You can't say this, you can't say that, and if you say it, you get canceled. The cancel culture. We heard about that a few years ago. You don't agree with same-sex marriage, well, then you're canceled. They gave the founder of Chick-fil-A Kathy Truitt a horrible time. I pray he's in heaven. And he said that marriage is between a man and a woman. And everybody in Hollywood was in an uproar. You know, Hollywood is satanic. Let's just be honest. We're following these movie stars. Some of them, I don't know the percentage, have sold their souls for that fame. And that's coming out into light. You see that they have these mysterious deaths. You know, I was looking at a documentary of a Donna Clark, I believe her name was, who was a famous star back in the day. She was passing as white when she was really black. And they said that back in Hollywood, even back in those days, they would alter the biographies of people to garner sympathy or make them multicultural, different types of European ancestry to appeal to more people. And they would put them in these terrible situations where they would be caught with people of the same gender sexually and taking pictures of them and blackmailed into submission. And when they dared to speak out, they would be mysteriously found dead. I always wondered why Marilyn Monroe, even Elvis Presley, in, you know, different stars, you know, you've got Michael Jackson, it happened to Prince. Every time you look around, it's like, why are they always found dead? Even Whitney Houston was found. They said, well, they were on drugs. Well, who put them on drugs? Was it the industry itself to keep them under control? I don't know. You know, I'm not sure about that because not everyone in that industry is put on drugs, but maybe those were the ones who said, you know, they'll just sell their soul anyway. They don't have to be put on drugs. They'll do whatever they're told. So we got to be paying attention and ask ourselves these questions. Why is this always happening? But they said a one world government is something that they want. And this is prophetic when it comes to what's already in the Bible.
Well, fascism was a word that the left and the elitists like to use when describing President Trump. But in fact, the economy that Joe Biden has created with $6 trillion plus in spending in the last 3 years is economic fascism straight from Benito Mussolini. It is a political subsidy economy. It is an industrial policy that has enriched corporate elites. It has enriched those cronies of the left, and it has impoverished those who have to work for a living. And to quote something you said, and it's a very deep and broad statement, Victor, these ideologues believe they're morally superior and smarter than anybody else, and therefore we're entitled to do things other people do not do.
Yeah, they've set a premise that Donald Trump is so toxic that any means necessary are justified. Take him off the ballot, indict him 4 times with local and state and federal prosecutors, impeach him twice, Russian disinformation, laptop disinformation, you name it. And that's all justified because he's arbitrarily constructed as a threat. And we know that he's a threat because he would solve the border problem. There wouldn't be crime in the streets. We would try to have deterrence again. He would restore deterrence abroad, and we'd be energy independent at the expense of the Russians. They would really not like that if he pumped more oil and crashed the world price. So that's it. Just is so frustrating, and they're so incoherent and arrogant, and yet they're so limited and mediocre. They just say the same things. They learn nothing. They forget nothing. They're boring, they're banal, and I think they understand now that nobody's listening to them anymore.
But they are dangerous. But as we talked about, Davos can't stop talking about Donald Trump, but neither can Team Biden. Listen to what Biden's 2024 co-chair said just this morning.
Donald Trump is hoping that American citizens have collective amnesia, that when he was president, he basically presided over chaos and destruction. And he thinks the American citizens are going to forget that. Donald Trump always paints a mythical picture of a past that never was and tries to convince you that that's good for you. And everybody in America knows that that's not true.
Victor, Donald Trump is relying on the people don't have amnesia. They remember his economy and how great things were, the upward mobility, the kind of salary increases that they had with really low inflation. He wants them to remember that. And when they talk about chaos, the chaos was created by the left with Russia collusion, impeachments, all of the questions from the media driving a narrative on Donald Trump. I go back and look at what happened in the press room, questions from the left to Donald Trump about Russia collusion, and how calm he was actually answering their BS lying questions to him. Donald Trump didn't create chaos. He created prosperity for people.
He did. We don't have a porous border. We don't have a border. They destroyed it. They know they did. I think part of the problem and the anger is they project onto Donald Trump. The way they think, they're thinking right now, if we had done to Donald, we know what we did to Donald Trump. If they had done that to us and we were going to gain power again, we would go back and take revenge and retribution and weaponize the FBI, the DOJ like we did before. And that's what Donald Trump must do, because he must think like us. So but he doesn't. For all his tough and sometimes crude rhetoric, he's not a revengeful president. He never weaponized these agencies. He never tried to have FBI people work with Twitter to suppress the news that he felt was unfavorable. But they think we're going to be, Donald Trump thinks just like we do. And we know what we would do if we got power again. We would go full blow, full bore, and try to weaponize the government. And therefore, he must be doing that too. And he's not. And that's what's so frustrating to them.
This lawfare, speaking of that, is not going so well. In your latest column, Victor, it focuses on the concept that the left has yet to understand. Quote, prosecutors are discovering that the more they seek to rush to judgment before the election and gag Trump from speaking publicly about these proceedings, the more he rises in the polls. But in the column, you pick apart these cases, and this lawfare, it's falling apart.
Yeah, I think it is. Everybody said that Fani Willis's case was the jewel in the crown. It was the strongest, and it's going to implode given her behavior and unethical and probably illegal conduct. And when we look at Jack Smith's, he's trying to hasten the case to time it with the election, gag orders. I don't think that's going to work. And people say, you know, I think everybody understands the Bragg and Letitia James are just vindictive. They've never, I mean, there's nothing to them. And they don't realize that every time one of these stumbles or fails, they don't go back to square one. They're force multipliers of each other, and they turn off the people. So when you take him off the ballot, or you have these 4 indictments, and after you've impeached him, and after the laptop, and after collusion, and people just say, you know what? This is incremental. These people are pathological. They won't stop. And they think, well, we just threw a bunch of stuff out there and see what stuck. We'll keep doing it, and finally something will stick. It doesn't work that way. They're just.
As we all see, Donald Trump, of course, is for things of God, America. He's for the American people, not some American people. Donald Trump is for all Americans. He's for the little man. And you would think, you know, with the left, with the way they think, they say he grew up privileged. He's they've been attacking white males. I just got to put that out there. And you all know it. And I've been hearing about it. And I was thinking to myself, they don't attack white men. Oh, that's hogwash. But then I started seeing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, they are. They're saying toxic masculinity. You know, when you stand up and be a protector and have those traditional things that the Bible says a man should be a protector, you know, God-fearing, the priest of his home, that's toxic. These people are anti-God. Let's just call it what it is. They hate God. They hate God and they hate America. That's what it is. And this is good versus evil. Everything good, they bash. They call Donald Trump a fascist. He was for free speech. How is that fascism? There were no wars when he was president. How is that a bad thing? How is that bad? People were not being slaughtered in the streets. That thing that happened in Israel didn't happen under his presidency. All the bad, if people would just stop listening to the news and pay attention to what's going on around them, unless you get the right kind of news. There are some outlets that are more truthful, you know, but all have a lean and have a bias, just being honest, because we all have our biases. I know I do as well. I'm human. But at the same day, at the same time, we have to see that the prices were better under Trump. Crime was lower. Illegal immigrants weren't soaking up all the resources. And then the fact that they said that the teachers' unions, You know, the one percenters, the elitists, believe that the teachers' unions should control a child's education rather than the parents. The teachers' unions don't care anything about our kids. That's why the public schools are graduating children that are functionally illiterate. And yet we vote that way so we can stay dumb and uneducated. When you're uneducated and you're not properly equipped, you're more easily controlled because they'll say, I'll give you this so you can survive. Welfare. They'll give you welfare so you can survive. And when you try to get off of it, they'll make it hard as hell to get off. So a lot of people don't have, they're stuck. They're trying to get out, but they're stuck. So it's control, and welfare was put into place to control people. Because I know someone that tried to go to college, a young man, and he has type 1 diabetes, and he wanted to go to school. And when they found out that he was trying to go to college, they said, we're going to have to take away your health care if you do that, if you're trying to go to college. But he would die without that because he's type 1 diabetic. He has to have it. So he's not in college. And he's still just trying to figure it out now. He's in his early 20s. So when we see things like this and we, just wonder, I used to always think, why is this like this? And why is this like that? Why is it that things went downward during this after civil rights, not better? It was from Democrat policies, liberal policies. The elites want to control everything. They want to control how we cook, how we drive, how we think. How we think. Do you all agree that this is the real reason why? Yes, the evil powers that I call them the evil powers that be. I don't call them the elites. I call them the evil powers that be. They're the same people. I just like to call them the evil powers. They hate Donald Trump. They hate us. Okay, so if you want to keep voting Democrat and watch our freedoms be taken away, watch our children turn into clones and hate each other because they're pushing all of these DEIs and CRTs and all these other alphabets at us in the pride flag community. We want to be thrown into oblivion, throwing us into hell with these demonic beliefs. They're more than evil. They're just flat out demonic, just flat out debaucherously, nefariously evil. Well, you all tell me what you think. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like on the video, comment, subscribe, share my videos. Thank you all so much. I am on Rumble. Chat with me, Linda B, but type it in as one word. You all be blessed. Love God. Love your families. Love our country, United States of America. And as I always say, march on, warriors.